It is my pleasure to introduce our moderator for our next session titled Stewards First, How Critical Minerals Projects on Northern Vancouver Island Enable First Nations Leadership and Community Prosperity. The moderator of the session is Christy Smith, Senior Vice President, Indigenous Engagement and Human Environment from Falkirk Consulting. Christy is a member of the Comox First Nation and a highly skilled professional with 25 years of proven expertise in Indigenous-centered planning, engagement, and strategic advisory work. Her career is grounded in reconciliation and decolonizing how business, government, and industry engage with Indigenous peoples. Please join me in welcoming our moderator, Christy, and our panelists.
Test. Okay. I might have 25 years of experience, but nothing as it relates to breaking microphones. So thank you, everybody. I turned 50 this year, and I swear to goodness sake that the day I turned 50, I needed glasses. I can't see with them on. I can only see my paper. So bear with me. But I'm excited today to be joined by Sam, Chief James, and Kate on this panel. I have the privilege of working with this team on the Northisle project. So I'm excited about our conversation today. And again, if you want to put your questions into Slido, we'll have time at the end to ask some more direct questions. And you'll also see me like that a lot. All right, so our talk today is Stewards First. How critical mineral projects on North Vancouver Island enable First Nation leadership and community prosperity. So critical minerals are framed as essential to Canada's economic and clean energy future. But these projects are not just about supply chains and permitting timelines. They're also about land, water, rights, governance, relationships, and future generations. So to begin with, I would like to ask the panel, and we can go down this way if we want, what it means to put stewardship first. Actually, I'm going to start with Chief James. What it means to put stewardship first, and how does that change the way we think about critical mineral development on North Vancouver Island?
Gilaksa Nugu, I'm James Nelson, Chief Councillor, Quatsino First Nation. I just want to start off by acknowledging the elder that opened this morning, and I wanted to acknowledge the Name Nation and brothers and sisters from the South for allowing me to speak here on their traditional territory today. Gilaksa from my community to yours. I don't usually speak scripted, but I definitely want to present in a good way to know the audience and the impact that how important it is that IROC and relationship building in the mining sector of Quatsino First Nation and its people. But I'll speak to points, and then I hopefully to give some genuine answers that can basically help give feedback to the direction that the province is going as we navigate through the changes that we've gone through the years from the 70s, 80s, 90s to now. A testament to the C3 and hosting along with the facilitators on the direction we're going. The part of the growth is going through this process, and we're very happy to share our journey as we move forward. Galaxla. Thanks for listening to me. Stewardship means thinking long-term, making decisions, future generations in mind. Development can happen as long as it's included with the nation's best interests and priorities moving forward. These are things that are community identified as priorities, even in engagement, how we move forward with proponents or even government. These are relationships that we're looking to build upon. Never perfect, but working through it and being champions and knowing staying to the course of the community vision. That helps guide us because nothing's perfect, but we try to work through all our differences, whether it's with province or the proponent, and that's our goal, is to follow community vision and look forward to the interests of the community. Okay, Alexa, thanks for the question.
Thank you. I'm actually going to go to Kate next for that question. What does stewardship first mean?
So to me, it means that we need to shift the mindset from, mining companies do extract resources. So we need to move the mindset from what can we take to what are we responsible to protecting. And so really building that knowledge around the lands that we are going to operate on, and seeking out the information and knowledge of our Indigenous partners, and really recognizing that these lands that we're working on are lands that are within Quatsino and the other First Nations partners' territories. And so really wanting to understand the environmental aspects and how we protect and sustain those during operations, but also after. I also think about that, the legacy piece, and not just focusing on those short-term items, but also that long-term. These things that we're deciding on today need to stand up for 50, 100, 150 years from now. And really moving from, that we're planning just, again, with that extraction in mind, moving away from that and really, moving into that partnership and co-governance and making the decisions together with our First Nation partners.
All right, Sam, you're up.
Okay, I've been accused of being a very 10,000-foot person in the sky, but I think that's appropriate to address this question because it starts with purpose. Why are you doing this? What type of problems are you trying to solve in the world? And when you figure out what the answer to that is, that will be worth your time. And that's what's most valuable to all of us, our time, right? And so the critical metals question as to why we're doing this is clear. You need critical metals in order to achieve the things that we need to achieve as a world in terms of decarbonization, electrification. There are not enough of these developable projects around the world. And it's not because of mineral inventory. There's a lot of mineral inventory in the world. There's a lot of copper in the world. There's a lot of molybdenum in the world. The key question is how to be able to extract it responsibly in partnership and in collaboration with rights holders and communities. And I've run various operations across CIBC's M&A platform, and have gone to many, many countries and seen a number of cycles around natural resource extraction. And the most defining change in this cycle versus previous cycles is that you need to have social license in order to solve these major problems in the world. It's not about the mineral inventory, it's about making sure that you're working in partnership with the rights holders and the communities. And so to answer the question, what it means to me is that we are starting from community up, right? In the past, there's always been, and when I say the past, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, there was always this impetus of starting top down, having governments effectively push projects forward because of the importance for various reasons. I won't even go into that, but the critical change today in today's market is that the projects that are going to be successful moving ahead are going to start from community up. And so from our perspective, we're here to listen. We're here to understand what is the most important thing in our First Nation partners' communities. We don't have the answers yet today. We've started that process early. We are moving into a pre-feasibility study, so we've been in this dialogue since 2022 and probably even before that. So when this was a pure exploration company, that's when we had started the dialogue. We are starting community up, and that to me is the essence to, I believe, the foundation of success.
Thank you. I have a direct question for Chief James. I'm curious to know what meaningful First Nation leadership looks like at a project level. So whether it's through governance tables, technical review, what does this leadership look like for you and your community?
Thanks for the question. Leadership means the representation of interests of the values and priorities of our community, and leadership moving forward, ensuring that community values are reflected in everything we discuss moving forward. I think we've achieved that, as Sam just reflected, the early engagement and what that looks like, being a part of that process. I think the stepping stones and the foundations have been laid, are being laid as we move forward and building off of that, making sure that we're involved in every step of the process is very crucial, and I think that's the change we're looking for, not just in Quatsino First Nation, but even the acknowledgements of people coming here to listen from the United States and across the province. It's crucial to know and be a part of the process of what change looks like, not just from our community base, but what it looks like as we work together collectively when it comes to province proponents and First Nations understanding values, because we understand. And the elder said this morning in her songs, I was very empathetic to realize that you're actually seeing the genuine elders speak and show empathy towards the hospital and caregivers. Same thing goes for everything that we do as we build those relationships. So I was very humbled and honored to listen to the elder sing this morning on behalf of the empathy she had towards the hospitals here in the Namba region. So I reflect on that because I think it's the same values that Indigenous people, because you can see it from the elders down to the generation I'm in now and how we move forward. I'm sorry for rambling here, but I'm not a very good public speaker, and I'm used to just AGMs, and they're not this quiet. Usually it's stones and questions being asked, so aggression towards me, but fellow leaders in the room can relate. So I'm trying my level best, so I apologize for rambling on. But that's in general, that's exactly the elder speaking this morning is kind of reflects to almost everything you see that's happening right now in this room is testament to that. Because exactly what the elder was saying and singing this morning is exactly what Indigenous people in general, because that's exactly what we want to do, we want to be a part of it. And empathetic is what we are, who we are as people. And as we move forward, that's exactly what we try to achieve. Thanks again for listening.
You're not rambling. It was great. I am going to dig into that a little deeper because I'm curious. I'm going to actually go back to Kate, and I want to know what governance structures are in place or being developed to support First Nation leadership in this project.
Yeah, maybe I'll go back to what Sam shared, is that community up approach. And so, we're working, we've established several tables that are fairly early in their development, but we have a joint implementation committee that we've established. We have a joint technical committee that we've established. We also engage with the community. We have periodic community dinners where we can share and listen to understand the concerns, gain knowledge and understanding about the area that we're working in. And then we're also engaging with the First Nations guardians and monitors, and we've established a process where we are seeking approval for activities that we have planned on the ground. So, if we have a activity, historically it's mostly been exploration drilling, that the guardians have a chance to go out into the field, look at the area where that's planned, and work with our team and really agree and consent to that activity going ahead. And then they also return back and see that, reclamation and remediation has been done. It's an open dialogue. There's a lot of feedback. So, really the governance structures are intended to be at multiple levels. There's also governance structures where Sam and Chief James do speak as well. But, really focus on that community up and working together at all levels.
Thank you, Kate. Sam, do you want to add anything to that?
Sure. So when I started in 2020, the first meeting I had was actually with the then Quatsino chief to understand what the desire was for Quatsino around a big project like this. This was before I even started at Northisle, and clearly there was a desire to progress the dialogue and the project at that point in time, which gave me the confidence to obviously take the job. When I started talking to the others in the community, including our other two partners, the Quaguth and the Tlaxicala First Nations band, it was very evident, and also the municipality of Port Hardy, it was very evident that we had to make sure that we were getting in front of communities, the First Nation communities first, and then progress from there, right? So make sure that the communities within Quatsino, Quaguth, and Tlaxicala are informed as to what we were doing, and then once that was in place, Then we would broaden it out and to explain what we were doing to the municipality and the province and of course, the feds. And that's effectively what's happened over the last 5 years. It's taken a while, but it's certainly this progression and the structure, whether it wasn't imposed on us, it was that naturally occurring progression of going community first up the ladder. And so now what we're facing, and you've heard it from Kendra in the last presentation, is that the province and the feds are now wide awake to this opportunity because it is an incredibly important initiative within a nation-building exercise around critical metals, reconciliation, and the fact that a tremendous amount of money and time and effort was spent building the infrastructure that we now see from pretty much Campbell River all the way up to the northern end of the island. So all that infrastructure, all that initiative of building the infrastructure, the powers, the roads, the ports, that was all done in and around 1960s, 1970s, which obviously now exists today as the ongoing benefits of course, activating the BHP Island copper mine. And so today, where we are looking to spend our effort as a company and as the proponent is to try to activate the provincial and the federal governments to open up this broad pool of not only capital but also resources to ensure that we are optimizing and getting as much as we can out from this political initiative at those levels to show not only future benefits to our communities but direct benefits. And these benefits are, of course, things that we can't provide ourselves, which is education and healthcare and just simple things like expansion of power reliability. And so those are the things within the structure that we can and we are being very active now. We just came back from Team BC meeting in Ottawa just this week, where we are now, as a province, looking to activate some of the federal pools that can help establish these benefits sooner rather than later.
Thank you. I'm going to go back to Chief James because it's a community question. And I'm curious on your definition of community prosperity and what that means beyond jobs and contracts.
Sorry, I'm gonna have to go some of my speaking points. Nervous is kind of starting to show a little bit, but I'll do my level best, Alexa. The particular boards given to Quatsino past experience of mining in the territories, island copper projects. I think, what's that question again? Sorry.
What's your definition of community prosperity beyond jobs and contracts? So a lot of times, historically, it's been jobs, here's a business opportunity, they've been light. We haven't seen legacy on projects like this. And so what does it mean for your community to think about community prosperity beyond those jobs and contracts?
Prosperity for Quatsino, I'm just going to go off the cuff because I think that I can answer this very well. And what it looks like for our community based on all our community engagements and what prosperity looks like is the spin-offs, the things that can happen, whether it is healthcare, whether it is education, because with jobs, and this does involve health. At the end of the day, you talk about business opportunities, you talk about opportunities and economic benefits, whether it's infrastructure or anything for nations. The spin-off for that is health. You can't get one without the other. And health for our nations, as you hear, even when you go to other meetings, whether it's in different sectors, health comes with wealth. When you have people coming home with jobs every day, you know, they're coming home happy. They're making money. There's a reason. There's goals, routine, and with that you come, you know, you got your bills and everything paid. So it's just not only the health aspect, but when you start looking at the legacy part of what you can achieve from a community vision as you're moving forward, whether it's power or what the post-mine looks like. So those part of the early discussions is very important for Quatsino as we lay the foundation to what it's like to leave a legacy. It's not just the fact that we live in an era now where mining has evolved, Sam just alluded to earlier, that back in the 60s, 70s, and this is in my lifetime, that BHP was in there. I can count on one hand 30 years that are in there, how many people have worked out of there from Quatsino First Nation. So legacy is being a part of it, and we're living it. Me sitting here talking amongst you guys that actually want to listen to me speak is a legacy that's going to be a part of how we move forward and what it looks like, not just for Quatsino, but for other nations that are probably going to go through, whether it's a different sector. It may not be mining, it may be something in wind, it might be something in energy. But legacies are left and built by the process, not just what's coming, because everything will come eventually. So hopefully that answers the question.
Kilesa.
Alexa.
I'm going to move maybe to Kate first. On your definition of community prosperity.
Yeah, for me, you know, I don't want to repeat what Chief James already said, but, you know, it's the health of the people, but also the health of the environment. So the prosperity, if you know, the project ignores the need for clean water, healthy forests, and a functioning ecosystem, then, you know, then that prosperity is lost. So it's not just economics, it's about, you know, holistically looking how the project interacts with the community, and it's not just the people in the community, but also the environment that community relies on is an important part of the culture and, you know, the interaction of the entire ecosystem. So, you know, really wanting to, you know, make sure that we're working together to understand the environment we're working in, how we can protect that, while, you know, at the same time, you know, focusing on jobs is also important, and economic opportunity, but, you know, making sure that the entire aspects of the project are considered, and there's a voice at the table, that there's decision-making ability and how we undertake the project, so that we can be protective and monitor, you know, the interactions, and be adaptive, so that, you know, at the end of the project, you know, I know that seems a long distance in the future, but at the end of the project, that, you know, the community is healthier, but the environment is just as healthy as it was before we started.
Thank you. Do you want to add to that?
I do. Sorry, I do. I think we've had a few community meetings, and the two very strong feedback that I get, one is youth, a focus on youth, and what are we doing to prepare our youth, not only for this opportunity, right, but education to look at vast arrays of opportunity beyond even our project in mining. So that's something that always has resonated with me, something that is very near and dear to my purpose. Is I absolutely think that focusing on youth for not only our project, but for the development of the community is absolutely mission critical, and that's how I would measure, you know, success, quite frankly, within a community. The second thing is the definition of sustainability has come up time and time again with our First Nation partners. Is the definition is not one generation, it's multiple generations, 7 generations. And so we have in a project that right now is very staged in terms of modulars. So we have a small project that's 5 years that bridges into a 30-year project, which is what we're contemplating today. But the entire district is a very significant district from a resource potential perspective. And whilst we haven't defined beyond the 30 years, this can be potentially the multi-generational project that that can continue on through generations and generations. And so part of our mission, actually not part of our mission is to activate the entire district as quickly as possible to be able to potentially answer that question of multi-generational relevance. And so I think that from our perspective, that's probably one of the key things that we will also measure our success on as it relates to what we're hearing, feedback we're hearing from the communities.
Thank you, Sam. So this is a bit of a deeper dive into sort of the same thing we've been talking about, but what would make this project feel like it's advancing community priorities rather than simply seeking community acceptance? Because we have that that's a very different thing in our world. It's acceptance or advancing community priorities. So I might start again with you, Chief James, just because it's community-based. What would a project feel like it is advancing community priorities rather than just seeking community acceptance? The above and beyond question.
Thanks. Community needs to be involved in shaping the project, not just reacting to it. There needs to be alignment between the project objectives and the community priorities. I think that's crucial moving forward, and as we evolve in the process to what this looks like out of the gate. And we're going through this process right now. So the priorities and everything we're engaging with the JIC team and the committees that we have set up, that's exactly what we're going through that process now. So to answer the question, that's evolving as we speak. And I think it's going in a direction where I think we're working together, that we're identifying a lot of those priorities in the early engagement with the baseline studies underway now. So to be continued, I think it's evolving, and I think it's working in a direction that's going to meet everybody's needs.
Thank you. Maybe I'll move to Sam. I keep picking on Kate next, but Sam. Advancing community priorities rather than simply seeking community acceptance.
So the start is to listen to what those priorities are. Like we are not here to tell the communities what their priorities are. It's to facilitate and help activate not only our pools of capital, but other forms of the government's pools of capital and assistance as well. So, you know, under the theme of starting early and starting the dialogue early, that's exactly what we've done. But we are at that stage of early understanding of what is important to the communities. And, you know, the community meetings are an essential first step for us to get the temperature of what is important. And I think we've had a pretty good idea of what is important. I think, as I mentioned, youth development is one of the primary things that we keep on hearing feedback on. Language preservation. I know that the Quaguth specifically has really enforced this idea of really establishing strength and in developing that priority for them. You know, I do think that these are things that we receive as feedback from our interactions. I think it's very important what Chief James said, certainly within the Quatsino territory, is to very, very explicitly understand and express what the objectives are within the Quatsino First Nations group. And I think once we get an understanding of what that is, we have this ability to not only activate it through our own resources, but again, have this incredible line of communication with the provincial and the federal government that can really assist in some of these desires. I think one of the things, and I apologize if I'm perhaps don't have permission to share this story, but you know, these minister meetings where, you know, First Nation groups go into these ministerial meetings and they have 10, 15, 20 minutes to describe what it is they want in their communities, including, you know, healthcare and infrastructure and education. To some extent, they feel dismissed from the discussion because there is no priority focus at the ministerial levels to activate any action. And so when you have an underpinning project like ours that does have the focus of the provincial and federal government because of critical metals reconciliation, and they don't have to spend billions of dollars building infrastructure in this area because it's already been built, that's when you can have that ability to connect, to create that connective tissue between what is important for the communities, First Nation communities, and what is achievable in activating governments at the provincial and federal level. So, you know, I think it starts with listening, and that's what we're doing, and we understand what we're doing, but it also starts with activating other forms of government, provincial and federal, to really get behind some of these critical initiatives that our communities are identifying.
We're going to run out of time with all my questions. So I see that there's some questions online, but I'm going to ask sort of that final question that I had proposed to this group, and really understanding, like, how can this project, what do you want to see in the next 10 years from now what does success of this project look like for you? And I might start with Kate. What does success look like for you as it relates to the North Island project? 10, 20 years? What does this look like?
Yeah, that we're continuing to work together as equal partners, and that the project decisions, how we operate, having, monitoring the success of the project together, having the transparency around how we're doing, that we have these opportunities to adapt and change and evolve, because everything is not going to go perfect. 10 years from now, it would be great if everything went absolutely perfect over the next 10 years. But I've been to this party before. I know that it's about listening, feedback, working together, and really, seeing, that it's not just a handful of jobs. I want it to be a meaningfully employment opportunities, leadership opportunities at the company, that we have, involvement and participation in the project to a meaningful way, and also that there's economic and business opportunities that, that are not just, supporting the project or the mine, but also have other opportunities in the region, and continuous Indigenous-owned businesses, and then also equity participation. I think that that's important as well. I know we're very early in those conversations, but that it's a project that is that we're co-developing. It's not something that we're just reporting out on. That we're working to develop it together. And then also, really looking at that legacy. It was very inspiring listening to Carrie talk about where the Tahltan is, but really, wanting to see that resiliency in the governance of the nations, and that they can not just participate in North Island project, but that they have the governance systems and administrative capacity. If there was 5 other projects knocking on their door, they'd be like, okay, bring it on, and that they would be able to manage additional, non-mining opportunities in the region.
Chief James, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, just to capitalize on what you're saying, that's exactly it, the capacity. And I want to acknowledge our team because they're here. And you hear me speaking, but at the end of the day, it takes a team to make things work, and as we build capacity. And a lot of we have the capacity within, and to see them shine is nothing short of phenomenal. But the fact that we're able to, what we want to see in the next 20 years, we're going through it now with the capacity building and what our team looks like, whether it's in economic, whether it's in lands, our TUS program, our energy sector. We contribute in every facet right now, from the previous projects to what we're dealing with right now. And that's growth. That's how government was formed. That's built off of that. Quatsino's going through that process. And our team's getting bigger. So what the program looks like as we move forward, a couple of the answers were said earlier about what it looks like for the education portion, the opportunities that are going to be there, the spin-offs for our young people to actually get in the fields that are going to be able to advance them and maybe come back work for the nation. At a capacity that we're doing now, we have a great team here right now that speaks volumes to the small little bit of growth we're going through right now. It's very promising to, if we're going through this growth right now, you imagine in 10, 15 years when we get down the road what that capacity looks like. And you alluded just a minute ago that when we deal with other sectors, and our energy team is here, and it's growing phenomenally. We have our lands team. The capacity part is very crucial, and networking here is exactly what we thrive on, is how we excel to bring more back to the nation, gathering and networking amongst the group that sits here today, and what that looks like, because we know there's opportunity out there, and what it is we need to do to build that capacity, and everything else kind of follows. So I don't want to get on rabbit holes of what opportunities lie there for students as they get older, but those things will eventually fall into place. But it's people that are doing the work now that I raise my hand to Alexa.
Thank you. Sam?
So our project is a very big project with even a bigger potential to extend it beyond its years. So it is really important to think about this in a modular mindset, right? And so I like the question because it's a 10 years. That's pretty much the first 10 years of what is something that could be significant. And it's not only our project. I know we had a discussion yesterday around the energy potential and some of the clean energy effects that could be integrated into our project development, right? So this is holistically a significant opportunity, not just for critical metals, but for other very strong initiatives within First Nation governments and provincial and federal governments. And so 10 years from now, what it looks like is that the mine is in production. It's in the first phase of what we had described. So we start small. We effectively do exactly what we say we're going to do, right? We gain the trust of our communities, and that then positions us to expand into the second phase, which is the remaining 24 years, right? And within that integration, we have an amalgamation or a connection between some of these other major industries that we all want to advance, including clean power, which I think everyone understands that in BC and Canada, we are second to none across the world in accessing clean power, right? So it's not only just the emissions that your project or your footprint, your project has impact on, but it's the secondary and tertiary effects. And because we have such a huge resource of clean power and a growing resource of clean power within BC specifically and in Canada in general, that's something that, and the opportunity does exist in the North Island to establish that. That would be part of that phase 1, phase 2 within the next 10 years, developing that integration of industries and integrations of potential. And then the third, of course, is finding the next 50 to 100 years. There was a question, what is the plan for the project today? Well, as I said, first 5 years is phase 1, the next 24 years is phase 2, and then with good exploration success across the 50-kilometer porphyry district, which we own 100% of, then that could potentially be that extension to the 50, 100, 150, 200-year sustainable definition. So that's a lot to accomplish in 10 years, but I think that if we are at that point, we will have defined success for ourselves.
Thanks, Sam. Recognizing we have 1 minute and 30 seconds, Kate, I'm wondering if we can answer the first question that came from Slido, which is, what are some specific local, community, and environmental benefits resulting from these mining projects? Just to put you on the spot.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Really, participation. So, I spoke earlier about how we're working with Guardians today. And so, really having that ability to be in the field with us, help us understand the environment we're working in. And we're actually benefiting from the knowledge and advice from the Guardians and the environmental monitors. We've really had such great success working with Quatsino Guardians as well as Quag Youth Guardians as well. And then the benefits are that there's an involvement in the decision making on how we proceed and how we interact with the environment. And so that's what I see the initial benefits are right now. And of course right now we're just in environmental baseline, so we just kicked that off in first quarter of this year. So we're really early in our, improving our knowledge and understanding of the environment, and I like to think we're doing that in partnership and we're working together.
And I'm just going to lean into Chief James for any final words as we wrap this up.
Oh, thanks. I just want to, on behalf of my community, to all of you, Alexa, for allowing me to speak and listen to me today, and much appreciated. Just to acknowledge my team one more time. They're in the room, and I know without them we wouldn't be able to move forward and how we work with proponents and government within our territory, and look forward to not only the future for Quatsino First Nation, but even our neighbor First Nations that are going through the same process, whether it's wind power. So I look forward to what growth looks like provincially and Canada-wide as we move this direction of government-to-government proponent relationship, because this is stepping stones to events like this, where we can actually show what change looks like, real change, and it's a growing pain that I'm honored and pleasant to be a part of, and know that Quatsino plays a big part in making sure that our priorities and stuff are acknowledged, and we're able to move forward in a good way with province and proponents when inclusion and having a seat at the table. And once that's done, I think we can really see what the progress looks like 50 years beyond. Thanks again. Galaksa.
Thanks, everyone.
Well, thank you very much to Chief James, Sam, Kate, and our moderator, Christy. We're going to do a quick photo and present each of you with a speaker gift. And while they're doing that, I'm going to let you all break for a nutrition break. So I encourage you all to head out to the trade show. We're very grateful to the engineers and geoscientists of BC for sponsoring. We will reconvene promptly at 10:55 a.m. We'll see you all soon. Thank you.